Hello and welcome to the Sharp 600, brought to you by Covers.com and presented by Bet365. I'm your host, Jason Logan. What's up? Welcome, and thanks so much for tuning in as we get you ready for NFL Week 10. We're in double digits now. This is business here as we enter the second half of the season. Going to give you a quick rundown of what we're going to give you over the next 600 seconds. We have Joe Osborne survived that trip to Philly, all the sports that he took in. Fantastic time. Joe's back for another segment of follow or fade. We're 6-3 with those follow picks so far this season. I'm going to have my three best bets for Thursday Night Football. It's Panthers and Bears, but this is why we have sports betting. And FYI, we are a perfect 6-0 the last two Thursday Night Football games with our Sharp 600 bets. We're going to have another Sharp 600 SGP from Bet365 for the Thursday Nighter as well. And then Aron Wattleworth, trading manager at Bet365. He's going to come in and he's going to run the 2-minute drill, give us some insights from the odds makers. And he's also going to give us the final leg of our Team 600 teaser, which has been red hot. Cashed it last week. We've cashed in 4 of the last 6 weeks. So a lot of great stuff and a lot of great picks that we're putting forward. Hope you're following along. And if you are following along, before we start the clock here, please go and rate and review the Sharp 600 podcast. We appreciate that feedback. Let us know if you're following. Let us know if you're hitting those bets. Let us know what you want to hear on the podcast. All that feedback and ratings, they feed into it. They allow us to move up the charts and reach more sports bettors like yourself. So we appreciate that feedback when you get a second. All right, let's go. 600 seconds on the clock for Week 10. Time for a little game of follow or fade with our guy, Joe Osborne, who survived the sports odyssey in Philly. Nice to see you made it back, and good job out there. Follow bets, 6-3. We missed last week, but we're still up pretty good in the season. So if you're new to the game, here's the situation. I got some bets going on for Week 10. I'm going to throw those out there. Joe's going to give one to follow. He's going to give me one that he's going to fade. And we'll start with follow. I got Washington in Seattle over 45.5. I got Ravens -6. I got New Orleans and Minnesota over 3.5 field goal made. That one's at even money. And San Francisco over its team total of 23.5 -130. Joe, which one do you want to follow here?
Easy. I will follow the Baltimore Ravens there at -6. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Cleveland Browns don't score one touchdown in this game. Maybe a couple field goals, but this is a team they're having a lot of trouble moving the football. Congratulations on beating up on the Cardinals last week. But pull back, take a look at the entire season. 29th in yards per play, 31st on third down. They've been awful at running the football in recent weeks, and you look at the games with Deshaun Watson playing. They're not very good in those either. Watson played against the Ravens last season. They only scored 13 points in that game. Now take a look at the Ravens defense at home, allowing 13.8 points at home against the Lions and Seahawks, two offenses that are much better than the Browns. Those teams combined to score 9 points in Baltimore. This is Watson's toughest test of the season. This is an offensive line that is allowing a lot of pressure. Now they're even more beat up going against a team that leads the league in sacks. Lamar, MVP of the first half. This team is on a major ass-kicking tour. I pointed out those wins versus the Seahawks and the Lions. Cleveland defense a little hit or miss too. You know, they allowed 38 points to the Colts, 28 to these Ravens game a few weeks before that. So yeah, I like the Ravens to keep rolling here in this game.
All right, good. Yeah, this was actually my first bet of Week 10. I took Ravens -5.5 under the key number. My power ratings say Ravens -7, so I'm good at -6 as well too. And they did bounce Cleveland in Week 4, beat them 28-3. People want to say, oh, they had a rookie quarterback under center for that one. Like you said, Deshaun Watson, not exactly setting the league on fire with his passing here. And then, as you mentioned, that offensive line banged up. We got to remember, too, the Ravens at that point back in Week 4, they had a lot of injuries on both sides of the ball as well, too. So I don't feel like the Browns got their best shot. You mentioned how strong they are in M&T Stadium this year. Outside of that overtime loss to Indianapolis, they've won by margins of 34, 32, and 16 points. So, yeah, feeling pretty good here, laying under a touchdown with them. All right, give us one to fade. So you last week the fade actually came through, the follow didn't. So give us one to fade here.
I'm going to fade your weirdo field goal prop for the Saints-Vikings game. And it's entirely based on The Saints. So their offense has been getting much better in recent weeks. They're getting a lot better in the red zone. So if I think if they get in close, they're more likely to score touchdowns than attempt field goals. However, different story on the other side of the ball. Their defense is taking a little bit of a step back. Their defense is getting worse in the red zone. So if the Vikings can get in close, I think they're going to have a shot to get into that end zone. So yeah, I will fade that one, and I'll take the under 3.5.
All right. I like the value on this one with even money too, because we have the Saints as a team that kicks a lot of field goals. As you said, they weren't performing in the red zone that well. They're really bad on third downs as well too, and leaving a lot of drives very short. And we're taking on a Minnesota offense as well too that has Josh Dobbs under center. It's going to take some time for that chemistry to hook up. He'll be able to make runs here and there like he did last week, but I don't think they're going to be finishing drives with 6 points on the board. I see them settling for a lot of field goals, and we have seen them attempting a lot of field goals, 3.3 field goal attempts over each of the last 3 weeks there. And then it's indoors, inside Minnesota as well too. So no wind, no rain, nice clean air between the kickers and the uprights. So I like these teams to combine for 4 or more field goals. We'll see what happens. Last week you faded the weirdo second half scoring prop, so maybe that's my sweet spot of these weirdo prop picks. Before we let you go there, Joe, Team 600 teaser. We hit last week. I think we've actually hit in 4 of the last 6 weeks, which is impressive. I'm taking Baltimore -6. I'm going to walk them down to a pick 'em. What do you like here?
I like the Bills to bounce back. Take them down to -1.5 versus the disgrace that is the Denver Broncos.
All right. Timeout on the play. At Bet365, they don't do ordinary, and that's why you get more boosts with them than anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. They boost specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for the biggest and best odds with their incredible Super Boost. Check out the boosts and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus or 18 plus in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms and conditions apply. Clock is back in, and we got some bets for Thursday night football, a game only gamblers could love. Panthers at Bears. These odds courtesy of Bet365. Of course, they are subject to change before kickoff. We got DJ Chark going over 23.5 receiving yards. Now, the passing props for the Panthers all down this week because of what happened last week with them. And Chark only had 9 yards on 3 targets. He caught 2 balls. One of them was for a touchdown. He has missed practice time this week with an elbow injury. However, he was questionable with the same status last week and did play. This is a buy low spot for Chark, who recorded 24 more receiving yards in 4 of his first 5 games of the season. He did miss week 1 because of a hamstring injury. This is going to be the third go-around in Thomas Brown's play calling since making that switch, so I expect some improvement. And while Chicago has stiffened on defense, they're still giving up gains through the air. Player projections for Chark all above this 23.5-yard prop. My number at 33.5. His ceiling as high as 37 yards out there on Thursday night. And Chark leads Carolina in air yards per reception. He's a guy that can break it off and maybe even go over this prop in just 1 catch. Sticking with their offense, I'm going with Chuba Hubbard over 43.5 rushing yards, -110. This is the third start for him as the running back 1 for this Panthers playbook. Seeing his snap count climb, and Thomas Brown looking forward to bring more balance into the playbook with the run game after Carolina was just so pass heavy to start the season. And Hubbard only had 16 carries for 43 yards last week against Indianapolis, but the Panthers fell behind very early. They were down big. They had to pass. And player projections beyond this 43.5-yard total, some as high as 63. My number pretty conservative at 56 yards, which is still well above that for Thursday night. And Chicago does sit among the top defenses in terms of stopping the run, but they've also faced some bad run attacks along this. So I think maybe the stats are a bit skewed. They played some rushing attacks ranked 32nd, 31st, 27th, 21st, 20th, 19th. Carolina not blowing the doors off anyone with their ground game, but we're not asking a whole lot from Hubbard here, and I think the Panthers try to find balance with the run and get him over this total. And then I like Montez Sweat, the newest Bear, to record a sack at -150. Bryce Young has been blasted the last 3 weeks, suffering 14 total sacks, and the Bears have a shiny new star in the pass rush, acquiring Sweat, who was instantly thrown into action and then linked to a big deal after coming over from Washington at the deadline. He played 41 of 63 snaps last week, and while the Saints, he didn't record against the Saints, and while he didn't record a sack, Chicago had a season-high 16 pressures. So I like him to find, he comes in with 6.5 sacks in the season. I like him to find Bryce Young for at least 1 sack. Now, you can take all of these predictions and you can put them into a Sharp 600 same-game parlay over at Bet365 for Thursday Night Football. And with this, we're going to take Chark, 25-plus receiving yards. We're going to go Hubbard, 50-plus rush yards. Montez Sweat to record a sack at yes. And that's at plus 575. And Bet365 is going to do you one better. They're going to boost this. So head on over to the website, look for the Sharp 600 SGP for Thursday Night Football, and see what that big boost is going to be. 2-minute drill time with Aron Wattleworth of Bet365. Aaron, we got to start with the Team 600 teaser we hit last week. We've hit 4 of the last 6 weeks. We got Baltimore pick'em, Buffalo -1.5. Take us home, brother.
How you doing, Jace? Thanks for having me. I'm glad to hear it's going well for these teasers. I'm going to go with Jacksonville +9 this weekend.
All right. Okay. We passed the midway mark of the season. Which team has been the toughest one to set odds for week to week?
I think the NFC are going to say the Rams, and the AFC are going to be Buffalo. Handicapping to results-wise, very up and down for both teams.
Yeah. Okay. League looking kind of top heavy. We've got about 10 teams in contention. I'd say maybe 4 or 5 of those teams could actually win the Super Bowl. But which mid-tier team do you think can make a run up those rankings in the second half?
I think, looking at the possibilities in the AFC, I'd say Indy, and the NFC, I'd say Atlanta, but very tough for either of them, given there's 12 teams that are well ahead of them.
All right, with Thursday Night Football, it's not the greatest matchup, but this is why we love sports betting. We've got Panthers at Bears. What's attracting money for the midweek game?
Bit of mover on this one. Chicago's going to 1.5 to 4. Sharps have been liking the money line and the spread as those numbers moved. And the total, you're kind of looking at more under here, 65 to 35. A little more rare for a Thursday night standalone.
All right, and let's get an action update. Biggest line moves for Week 10. What are the sharp guys like that's out there right now?
Indy +1.5 to -1.5. Baltimore -4.5 to 6. They also like the under there, 40.5. It's gone to 37.5 in that game. Detroit +1.5 to -2.5. Coming off a bye. Montgomery probable. Sharp's been liking that as the line's been moving.
Yeah, I'm looking at that one. I was leaning Chargers. I know it's an absolutely against the grain pick, but I was leaning Chargers. Last week, you gave us the old sweat-free winner. Ravens cleaned up, no problem. Best bet for Week 10. Let's keep that going.
Probably a sweat on this one, but I'm going GB Pitt under 39. Not much faith in either of those offenses.
Yeah, could be an ugly game for that one. But
likely.
Looks right for the under. All right. Thanks so much, Aaron. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Dell. Thank you for listening. A reminder, when you get a second, please rate and review the Sharp 600 podcast. We appreciate that feedback. And we will be back next Wednesday for Week 11. Until then, best of luck with your bets. At Bet365, they don't do ordinary, and that's why you get more boosts with them than anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. They boost specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for the biggest and best odds with their incredible Super Boost. Check out the boosts and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus or 18 plus in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms and conditions apply.